everyone, my name is Caitlin and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about an article that I read for my class EDU 489. The name of this article is Improving Reading Comprehension One Step at a Time, and it was written by Sarah Snitzer, Tammy Kizer, I believe is how it's pronounced, and Sarah Shulkin. And it was published by Middle School Journals in January of 2014. So this article is about improving reading comprehension, but how, and kind of taking the angle of how much vocabulary affects your reading comprehension. This was done by a bunch of 7th grade teachers in Los Angeles. They were looking at their reading scores, their standardized testing, and realized how poorly their school was testing, and looked nationwide and realized that the middle school grades are really having a hard time with reading comprehension, and why. And so they really took the angle of maybe it's vocabulary. And so they started off by checking the vocabulary skills of their students and realizing that they did really struggle with vocabulary. And they instantly realized that there's probably a connection there, and realized how important vocabulary must be for their reading comprehension, and that to better develop their students' reading comprehension, they needed to focus on their vocabulary. Well, after finding this out, they realized that there actually wasn't a huge amount of resources for teachers to help with vocabulary, especially in middle school grades, just because normally you think of vocabulary with the younger grades. So this article really focuses on what to do in middle school grade levels to help with vocabulary, and how to better understand vocabulary, because to be able to help a student with their vocabulary skills, they had to have a better idea of what vocabulary is, how their brain works. So here are some steps in how a human comprehends vocabulary and how that works. So this is to give you a little glimpse on how your brain works while you are learning vocabulary, while you're learning new words. It's called the Developmental Model of Word Learning. It's a 5-step process that are linear to each other. The first is, I do not remember seeing this word before. This is when they don't remember seeing it in a book, don't remember saying it, they don't have any recollection of this word. Number 2 is, I have seen this word before, but I do not know what it means. This is when they've seen it, but they couldn't re-say it, they couldn't tell you what it means. Number 3 is, I can recognize it in context, and I think it means. So based off context clues and what they've heard people say about the word before, they might be able to know what it means. Number 4, I know this word. It means, and this is when they know the word very clearly, they know the definition. And number 5 is pretty much the ultimate goal when learning words and vocabulary, and it's when you can use this word in a sentence. So not only can they say the word and the definition, but they can go as far as to use the word in their vocabulary. Now that they had a better understanding of how vocabulary works, how a child's brain works while trying to learn vocabulary, this kind of gave them the tools that they needed to create an assessment, because now they knew how it worked, they needed to figure out how to know where a child is in that, and how they're learning vocabulary, and what's failing in the teaching that they're already doing for vocabulary. So they came up with this system. During this assessment, they had a student in a quiet room individually for about 40 minutes, and the 5 components that they were looking for during this test was their comprehension process, inferencing, integrating new with existing knowledge from the lack of vocabulary for domain-specific knowledge, word reading accuracy and fluency ability, and other reading capacities involved in comprehension. So now that they had a better understanding of vocabulary, how a child learns vocabulary, what are the stages, and how to assess, what to look at to assess the child's reading comprehension. Inevitably vocabulary, they now need to know how to teach it. What's the best way? Obviously, there are some flaws if they're struggling with vocabulary so much by middle school. So there is a 3-tier of words. The 3 tiers of words is a great tool for teachers to use when teaching vocabulary. Tier 1 consists of words such as clock, baby, and happy, words with meanings students are likely to already know. Tier 2 consists of words such as fortunate and maintain. These words encompass the academic language of the curriculum, but students are less likely to know the meaning of the word, meaning that these are probably words that they will see in their textbooks and have to know to be able to understand school. Tier 3 consists of words such as palette, which rarely appear in text. So these are words that outside of the school they may never, or in school they may never hear, but outside of school and in certain situations they still need to know the word. So if your student is on tier 1 and has accomplished tier 1 and knows these words pretty well, then it's time to move on to 2, and the same for 3. So altogether, these teachers came together, the 7th grade teachers of Los Angeles, and they were able to fill a void that they believed the education system had. They saw that children were really, really struggling with reading comprehension, unlike ever before, and realized that they needed to figure out why, and there was nothing available for them to do that, so they had to create it. They went as far as to realize that it was mostly because of reading vocabulary and the steps of how to figure out what to do about it. They were able to go into more depth about what vocabulary is, how we learn it. They were able to assess a child properly to know, and they also, the 3 tiers of word system, and even though these are not things that they created personally, these things already existed, but they were able to put them all together and give them to teachers as information with other teachers that had students who were struggling in reading comprehension, and to give teachers all around the world a better idea of why your students may be struggling and a way to assess it.